Madness and greatness are two sides of the same coin. Every time a new Targaryen is born, the gods toss the coin in the air, and the world holds its breath to see how it will land. Targaryen madness. Is it real? Is it bollocks? If it is real, who had it? And what might be at the root of its cause?
But first, let's appease the robots, Tom. Don't forget to like, hype, and subscribe. We have a Patreon where you can get early access to videos, hear the uncut and unedited voiceovers in podcast format, as well as the video ideas that make it to voicing, but not to video, of which we are building up a little bit of a library of now.
Right, let's start with this coin quote of Sir Barristan's in A Storm of Swords. It's kind of bollocks. There's roughly 98 individuals that make up the Targaryen dynasty. Of those 98 individuals, only 6 nutters are acknowledged, and there are only 13 instances in total where you can even make so much of a case for madness. But madness is quite a catch-all word. Let's take a look at these supposedly mad individuals and what that madness entailed. Also guys, serious spoilers regarding House of the Dragon and a Night of the Seven Kingdoms events, so if you don't want to know, probably best to turn back now. Bye! First up, I'm going to address Dany and Daemon more as honourable mentions, because the canonicity regarding books versus shows, I probably don't need to tell you guys this, you already know, it's very uneven ground to tread. Dany, as we all know, snaps at the sound of the bells in the final season of Game of Thrones, seemingly going mad and massacring the population of King's Landing via dragonfire, hey that rhyme Tom, despite the city conceding defeat and offering a total unconditional surrender. Pretty unhinged behaviour that would have made her father proud. Regarding the books, however, while I do think Dany's little temper tantrum in King's Landing is a plot point provided to D&D directly from George's mouth, the outright confirmed supporting evidence gets a little bit thinner, amounting essentially to her being the direct offspring of the strongest case and her experiencing the trademark dragon dreams that are suspected to have consumed the minds of other Targaryens in the past. But behaviour-wise, beyond being a little entitled and tyrannical, she's not really done anything to suggest madness. Though, I suppose she did walk directly into a raging fire on a whim, so maybe don't let her off the hook just yet. For Daemon, there is absolutely nothing in Fire and Blood to suggest he was going mad. But in the show, he has begun to have dragon dreams, and from what we've seen, is doing a not so great job of handling them. Now for the book cases in chronological order. The first instance of suspected screws becoming loose within the Targaryen gene pool is very early down in the line with Maegor the First. Most of us are aware of his infamy. He was violent, impulsive, and unbelievably cruel. So much so that it's primarily what he's remembered for and a cautionary tale of what would happen were you to make Ramsay Bolton a king. Well, maybe he was just an arsehole. You don't have to be mad to be a massive raging dickhole, do ya? True. But there was one more layer to this that seems to indicate there may have been more to it than personal crapulence. Maegor is also remembered for being immensely paranoid. He never had a single friend and trusted absolutely no one, including his most loyal companions and even his own mother. And Seven Hells, you definitely don't want him organising any grand opening ceremonies. Just ask the builders of the Red Keep. Or, more accurately, that massive pile of builder invoices that mysteriously haven't been cashed in. He always was a vicious bastard, even in childhood, but this behaviour became much worse after he took a blow to the head in his trial by 7, and spent a wee bit of time in a coma. After this is when the deranged things this guy was capable of became the sort of deranged things that indicate you're not playing with a full deck. Put a pin in this for later, guys. Inciting incidents are quite a common running theme throughout this list. Next up, Queen Helaena Targaryen, who you may recognize from this show that appears to be turning into some wonderful A Song of Ice and Fire fanfiction. House of the Dragon seems to have toyed with the idea that Helaena may be neurodivergent, but we just wanted to make it clear that as of right now, this is exclusively a show-only interpretation of the character and quite different from what's in the books. In no way are myself and Tom suggesting that being neurodivergent automatically makes you mad. It doesn't. Helaena had a documented descent into madness after witnessing her son Jaehaerys being executed by blood and cheese. This quote-unquote madness manifested as a deep depression in which she refused to eat, bathe, leave her quarters, or look her youngest son Maegor in the eyes. Along with a refusal, though some theorize she outright lost the ability to ride her dragon Dreamfire. This dark descent came to its head with the gentle queen ending her own life by throwing herself from the window of her quarters in Maegor's holdfast. Some people are just too good for the world of Ice and Fire, Tom. After Helaena, the next red flag was Baelor the Blessed. This guy was quite a nice chap, all things considered, a very kind ruler, and quite charitable by feudal society benchmarks. But he also did a lot of things that by regular standards would be considered quite, nutty. Almost exclusively in the name of pious faith and personal purity. Acts such as walking through the Dornish desert on foot with little in the way of provisions as he returned several hostages to the people who had killed his brother, walking into a pit of poisonous snakes in order to free his imprisoned cousin, depleting the crown's treasury several times for charitable endeavors, implementing decrees such as banning prostitution, despite being made fully aware of the needless unrest it would cause, placing his sisters under house arrest to preserve their purity, burning books because they had knowledge in them and knowledge is scary, appointing randos to high positions of religious office because some totally not hallucinations told him to. It really does go on, culminating in his starving himself to literal death as penance for what he believed to be impure thoughts. Like Maegor, Baelor was always seen to be a little unhinged, but notably became worse after an inciting incident. In Baelor's case, becoming nom-noms for a pit of highly venomous vipers. After Baelor, the next blip was Prince Rhaegal Targaryen, the lesser-known brother of apathetic Aerys, Mopey Maegor, and Baelor the Badass Breakspear. Rhaegal's madness was less about actions and more about reputation. Though he was rumoured to dance through the halls of the Red Keep, stack bollock naked, so yep, probably some truth behind that reputation. Though, do note he was reputed to be of feeble mind, and what his contemporaries may have been labelling madness could have just been a very unkind way of them describing learning disabilities. Least his brothers looked out for him though. Good on you lads. The next dragon to go loopy was Rhaegal's own daughter, Aelora. Much like Helaena, Aelora's madness was characterized by a deep depression after an inciting incident by which she accidentally caused the death of her brother. She then suffered an assault suspected to be of the you-know-what kind during a masked ball, and this was the final straw that caused her to take her own life. Oh, this video is turning so depressing, Tom. Who's next? No! Next up is our beloved Egg, and his brothers Dickhead Daeron and Arsehole Aerion. It's implied the little guy may have started having dragon dreams later in life that led to an all-consuming obsession with resurrecting dragons from petrified eggs. An obsession which led to the deaths of many Targaryens and poor sweet Dunk. Kind of makes sense as well. His line is the line that ends up producing the most famous case of them all. Now let's look to his brothers. Daeron never displayed any signs of madness, but was noted for having some of the most potent dragon dreams of the entire dynasty. They were, in fact, so trying on his sanity that in an effort to avoid confronting them, he kept himself zoozed up 24/7. So the madness could have been there, but it's possible he may have been effectively medicating and camouflaging it with alcoholism. Aerion, on the other hand, presents a very strong case for Targaryen madness being a totally real thing. Like his other two brothers, it is strongly implied he was also subject to intense dragon dreams that he interpreted as confirmation he was a dragon in human form, leading the dickhead to drink a cup of wildfire in the belief it would allow him to transcend his human vessel. Only for him to die screaming in agony, because who the fuck of sound mind drinks a cup of what is basically magical napalm and expects different? You fucking dickhead! This brings us to the modern day and the events just before the main series. And of course, you all know who's up next. It's the guy for whom madness became moniker, Aerys the Mad King. This is the guy you picture when you think Targaryen madness. Thus, he must have been doolally from the start, right? Well, no, he actually wasn't always batshit crazy. His descent into madness is actually quite a tragic one. It's often left to the wayside that Aerys actually started out his reign as a pretty good king. Though how much of that was Tywin's S-tier admin and how much was Aerys' competence is up for debate. But hey, if you've put the realm in good hands, even if they aren't yours, I don't know, I still think it's praiseworthy. It wasn't until he and his wife started having stillbirths, miscarriages, and his children dying before getting past infancy that he started to crack, turning bitter and angry, which sparked the initial flames of suspected conspiracy that would fester into full-blown paranoia over time. Then, of course, like most of these cases, we have the inciting incident, and for Aerys, it was an event known as the Defiance of Duskendale. This is a very small rebellion led by one Lord Darklyn, in which he wanted some reforms. Aerys and Tywin said piss off. Aerys was then invited to Duskendale to talk it over. Aerys went himself with only a small escort, only to be kidnapped and held hostage for a year. This betrayal of trust likely the straw that broke the camel's back for already paranoid king, which was then sorted out when Barristan the Badass did Barristan the Badass things. This seems to have been the moment that truly snapped Aerys. After this, he seemed to be almost intentionally going through a mad ruler's checklist. Paranoia, mistrust, cruelty, sadism, unpredictability, erratic mood swings, creepy weirdo behavior around ladies, barbaric execution practices with a fondness for wildfire, eccentric decrees on a whim. This guy was told if he wanted to be the maddest there ever was, he had boxes to tick, and by the 7 he was going to make sure he ticked them all, damn it! And we all know how this ended for him. To cap things off, we've got the Mad King's 2 sons, we already did Dany at the beginning guys, who made it past infancy, Viserys and Rhaegar. Both Barristan and Illyrio believed Viserys to be touched by madness. He was overly obsessed with getting his crown back and does a lot of stupid and unwise things. But I don't know. To me at least, it seems like that's down to his own entitlement and personal shortcomings than it is any indication of mental instability. A Song of Ice and Fire, whilst viewed as grounded, is far from it. Magic seeps into the veins of the world throughout the main series, and this is a world of ice zombies and dragons. The Targaryens know they are descendants of dragon riders. They are born into royalty. They are used to having a high opinion of themselves and being of an elevated position. They are often described as being closer to gods than men. And I imagine with that sort of thinking growing up, which we know Viserys was fucking spoon-fed, that might twist his upstairs bits just a little. Rhaegar is the interesting one of the 3 children of Aerys, because we fans and many characters who knew him often view him as quite noble, headstrong, and intelligent. Not really traits you associate with madness. But there are lines to read between. For a start, he was fanatically obsessed with the prophecy of ice and fire. Some would even say consumed by it. it, to the point he was willing to fan the flames of a realm-devastating civil war that led to the deaths of countless thousands by absconding with Lyanna Stark for no other reason than to fulfill these dusty old words. It's also theorized by many that Rhaegar was, like much of his kin, subject to intense dragon dreams. And boy, whatever he saw in those dreams must have spooked the living shit out of him and put the lead in his pencil. Because like our soul Aerion, Rhaegar developed some serious main character syndrome. To the point he believed he could face down Robert fucking Baratheon in single combat, despite knowing full well Robert's reputation inferred he was basically a meat vessel for the warrior. If the prophecy stuff didn't convince you he might have had a screw loose, surely that tips it? And there we have it, guys. The strongest, most well-known, and also the grasping at straws arguments that Targaryen madness is actually a thing, and once you look at all the evidence put together in one place, yeah, it's really not all that compelling, is it? There's so much fan hype, along with a reasonable amount of emphasis placed on it in the lore about Targaryen madness, and yet the argument it's a tangible, unique trait inherent in the genes of the House of the Dragon is kind of weak sauce. In all but 3 of these so-called cases of Targaryen madness, the mental decline doesn't even start until an inciting incident that, let's be real, would probably fuck with the mental well-being of anyone, so why are we singling the dragon humpers out? This ground only gets more shaky when you do some due diligence and run these instances through other filters. In fact, you know what, Tom? Let's do that right now, buddy. Throw these guys up on screen. Right. Subtract those with no hard evidence of actions or behavior that could indicate madness beyond having strong dragon dreams. Okay, buddy. Now take away those whose behavior is more justifiably explained as other common mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Good. Now subtract those names whose actions are explainable as acts of desperation, but backed by at least some inherently sane logic and/or study of text or peers. Thank you, buddy. And finally, remove the names of those who didn't show any signs of madness until they were exposed to intense traumas that could test the sanity of anyone, not just those of a specific bloodline. Interesting. That leaves you with these as your strongest cases for inherent madness, and even 2 of them can be explained by one having severe learning disabilities and the other one just being a bit of a dick and getting on Uncle Illyrio and Grandpa Knight's nerves. I actually think George intended it to be this way too. He gives us just enough to say, yeah, maybe, but also all of the tools to refute it with other explanations like emotional trauma, bog-standard depression, and even physical injury, as might be the case with Maegor and Baelor. So, why is this madness thought to be a thing? Maybe this is all anti-dragon propaganda. These instances have likely been weaponized and exaggerated to be exclusively Targaryen traits by the Raymond Fossaways and Lionel Baratheons of the world because, well, they believe the Targaryens are...
They're incestuous aliens, Duncan.
4 out of almost 100. Yeah, it's definitely much higher than the real-world average when concerning legally applicable insanity, and 13 out of 100 is a bit higher than the real-world average for various mental health conditions, but I wouldn't exactly say it's coin flip territory. Would you? We also can't discount the very grounded explanation that these individuals are placed in high-pressure positions of political leadership, where the fate of 7 kingdoms can sometimes be on their shoulders. And because it's a monarchy, some have it thrust on them not by any choice or desire. Of course, there's going to be a disproportionate level of mental health issues in such a role. Ruling is a stressful business. 7 hells, the Baratheons couldn't even get past 1 fucking generation before deciding it was too much to handle. But, for the sake of the argument, let's say it's not propaganda and the Targaryens really do have a strong genetic predisposition towards insanity. What might be the cause of it? Well, there's two potential culprits, and I don't think I need to make you guess what one of them is. Of course, it's the fucking incest. It's just not a good idea. And it's been well established over our own history, like with this, handsome chap, that inbreeding leads to genetic defects, mental impairment, and physical deformities. Seriously, how the Targaryens have managed to maintain a line of sexy silver-haired supermodels is nothing short of a miracle. The second culprit is often overlooked, mainly because, well, incest is more headline-worthy. But no less important is the magical nature of Valyrian dragonlord blood. Specifically, how it came to be magical in the first place. You'll notice quite a few of the cases seem to be at least partially influenced by suspected dragon dreams, a form of vague and often quite distressing foresight afforded to many of those with the blood of the dragon. But how did the dragonlords attain such power? Well, if you believe in world theories and the like, that whole blood of the dragon thing isn't actually a metaphor. It's possibly a statement of the literal. Just go and look at the artwork in the Red Keep in House of the Dragon, which for reasons that will become apparent if you actually go and look at it, we can't show here. Otherwise, the Targaryens used fire and blood magic to actually mix their blood with that of their dragons in some twisted fantasy equivalent of genetic modification. This is often cited as the reason Valyrians have a much easier time of bonding with dragons. The fire-breathing fuckers obviously sense they are some sort of kin, which makes forging that metaphysical bond all the easier. It also explains why some Targaryen stillborns come out with dragon-like features such as scales and wings. I don't know, guys. To me at least, it makes sense. If Targaryen DNA at its core is unstable because it's been, well, tampered with, madness is just one of the many flavors to be brought out in the chaos. And that's our take. What's your oh, fuck, just dropped my iPad. I mean, book or scroll or parchment or whatever they have in Westeros. Don't you dare leave this in, Tom.